guys, it's Maddie again. My last video was 7 things I hate about Korea, so I've decided to make a 7 things I love about Korea. I have lived in Korea for almost a year now, and there are a lot of things that I notice are wonderful and things that I'm definitely going to miss if I do go back home to America. I do want to really emphasize that these are things I have noticed as a foreigner living in Korea. Number 1, Korea is very easy to live in. Please note that I mean it is easy as a foreigner to live here. Korea is extremely tourist friendly. All the signs and the maps and the menus are in English, and it's pretty common for people to try to speak English to me rather than me even trying to speak Korean to them. Now this is only true if you live near Seoul. The further you get away from Seoul, the less likely you are to find people who are fluent in English. It's happened on more than one occasion where I've met a Korean person who can speak English, maybe just randomly in public, and they ask me, how do you like Korea? And I say, oh, it's fantastic, it's really easy to live here. And they're always really curious to know why, and I just say, well, for example, you're speaking English to me. A lot of people move to Korea and they never learn to speak Korean. Especially a lot of teachers who come here for 1 year, they don't see the point of trying to learn it if they're not going to ever use it once they leave the country. I mean, you have to admit Korea is pretty small, so if you leave the country, unless you live near a Koreatown, you're not really going to have much opportunity to use the language. So the attitude of not really caring about learning the language is kind of common. And it's totally doable. I have friends who have lived here for more than a year and don't even know how to read the Korean alphabet. It's pretty easy to get by with just a few key phrases and being able to tell the taxi driver where to go. Most Korean people don't even expect that you know any Korean. I can say like, oh, thank you for the food, it was super delicious, and the Korean people are all like, oh, your Korean is so good, wow! It's like they are legitimately surprised any foreigner would take the time to bother learning Korean. But a lot of people want to try to speak English to me because Korean people, they go to school and they go to academies and at university they study English, but oftentimes they never leave Korea, so they don't really get an opportunity to practice their English. It's happened on more than one occasion where I get approached in public and people ask for my Kakao account like immediately just because they want someone to practice English with. Another thing that makes Korea really easy to live in, and also the second thing on my list of my favorite things about Korea, is the amazing public transportation system. All over Seoul there is this big complex subway system that is super efficient and really inexpensive to use. I can get from one corner of Seoul to the other corner in about an hour and a half. Of course, if you weren't to take the subway system and you would take a taxi instead, it would be much more expensive, but it might shave off about 30 minutes. A trip from one corner of Seoul to the other on the subway system may only be about 4,000 or 5,000 won. If time is not on your side, then you may want to take a taxi, but the downside of taxis is that they are quite expensive if you're going long distance. The general starting rate for taxis is about 3,000 won, and it increases at a pretty slow rate. So I might have a 45-minute cab ride that'll cost me about 30,000 won. And then there's also the bus system. I don't particularly feel comfortable using the bus system all the time because everything is unfortunately in Korean, and it can get a little confusing about which direction they're going or which stops they're not going to stop at. But there is an app you can use, and if you spend some time and actually try to figure it out, they can be pretty convenient. They're a lot faster than the subway system, and they have a lot more direct routes to where you might need to go. So yeah, to get around Seoul itself, you can take the taxis, the subway, or the bus system. Everything is super convenient and pretty easy to use. Because Korea is so small, there are also a lot of opportunities to travel around pretty inexpensively as well. This leads me into number 3 of my list of favorite things about Korea. Korea is a very small country, so there are a lot of really fun and exciting things to do in very short reach. There are a lot of Facebook and meetup groups that advertise fun events all over Seoul that are really quite accessible because you can just go anywhere in less than an hour. I've been up north in the mountains in the dead of winter to go ice fishing. I went down south to Busan to the Cherry Blossom Festival and the Holly Festival. I've been to many major tourist spots, and most of these were either day trips or overnight trips. Even if you're not living in Korea and you have only a few days to travel around, there are a lot of opportunities to do great things if you don't mind spending a few hours on a bus. Some of the more popular areas inside of Seoul include Hongdae, Itaewon, Gangnam, Yongsan, Myeongdong, and Insadong. And those are some of the areas I know off the top of my head that draw a lot of tourist attraction and just a lot of local attraction as well. There's a lot to do and a lot to shop and a lot to see and eat in each of those areas. And the biggest distance between any two of those, I think, might be at most 45 minutes by subway. And because taxis are so cheap, this leads for great opportunity for nightlife. You can stay out partying really late in a completely different city and then at 4 a.m. ride a taxi back to your place, wherever it may be, inside Seoul for maybe less than 20 or 30,000 won. This leads me to number 4 of my favorite things about Korea. Korea is a country that does not sleep. Whereas in America, a lot of shops and restaurants close down around 9 or 10 o'clock, in Korea, there are a good amount that do not close at all. There are very many 24-hour restaurants, and a lot of bars never close until the sun comes up. So this gives you a lot of opportunity to go out and have fun late into the night. As a Hagwon teacher, this schedule works really well for me because I work from about 3 p.m. to 10 p.m. So I've pretty much become nocturnal. I get out of work late, but I'm pretty lucky because there are still a lot of restaurants open for me to eat at. If you do happen to be out in Hongdae or Gangnam whenever it's late at night, a lot of young people flock to these areas to go clubbing, especially on the weekends. If you're in Hongdae, there are a lot of buskers that come out in the evenings as well. But it's not just 1 or 2 here or there. It's like an entire street, an entire 2 neighborhoods are filled with these groups of people dancing, doing K-pop covers, and performing and hoping to catch the public's eye. One of my favorite things about going out on the weekends is seeing everyone all dressed up. This leads me to number 5, the fashion culture. Korea is undeniably very fashion forward. One of the major things you might notice about Korean people is that they really care about what they look like. Here, public appearance is highly valued. To get a job, you have to submit a picture, and it's not uncommon to get denied a job because you're not attractive. This is as a Korean person though. As a foreigner, it's not quite the same. They really don't expect the same thing from foreigners as they do from Korean people. Not only do girls wear makeup and dress up to go out during the day, but guys do too. It's not necessarily about being trendy and stylish and like with the current fashion that's important. It's more so making yourself look clean and presentable and put together to make yourself look like you actually care about your appearance. I've heard people say that they think about it as being a service to other people. If you don't care about your looks, then you're doing a disservice to other people because they're the ones that have to look at you. I didn't really care about fashion growing up, but my attention towards it has increased tremendously ever since coming to Korea. Korean fashion is fun and refreshing, young, and most of the time pretty modest. Shopping around here is super cheap and convenient. Cheap clothes, cheap makeup, cheap accessories. Everything is really affordable and fun, and there are a lot of options to choose from. It's very refreshing to be able to get a little dressed up and not feel like you're going to stick out for being dressed up. Whereas back home in America, if I were to put on a little extra makeup and put on a cute coordinated skirt with the shirt, people would sometimes notice and be like, why are you all dressed up? But in Korea, looking cute and put together is kind of just the norm. Number 6, public events and activities in Korea. There is a park near my house, and almost every weekend it is a guarantee that it will be flooded with families with picnic blankets and picnic baskets and tents and lots of food and drinks. Not only are the parks heavily utilized, there are a lot of public events all the time. In that same park, it seems like they've had at least a handful of festivals just this summer. There always seems to be something going on. I remember moving here in the winter, and it was just always empty and dark and dreary and gray, and I was so depressed, and I was like, why do people like Korea? Nothing's ever happening, everything's cold and miserable. And then the summer started, and just out of nowhere, hundreds and hundreds of more people came out. It seems like now that the weather is good, the shopping area near my apartment is just always flooded with people. If you're there in the evenings, during the week, or on the weekends, it is guaranteed to be busy and full of life. If you go to the Han River, there are certain areas with huge performance stages and random things happening all of the time. On the weekend, it's guaranteed to have some sort of entertainment. You can walk around and see all the beautiful buildings and all the people enjoying themselves and having a good time. Last but not least, my favorite thing about Korea is the food. Korean food is amazing. Everyone knows kimchi, and one of the most common ingredients is rice, but the realm of Korean food goes so far beyond that. The whole event of eating seems to be a lot more entertaining here. One of my favorite things is undeniably Korean barbecue, where you and some friends sit around a table that has a grill inset or on top of it. The restaurant will bring you the raw meat that you've ordered, and you cook it yourself right then and there. And every restaurant has their own unique set of side dishes that you use to build your little vegetable wrap with your meat inside. So you grill your meat and you put it in a piece of lettuce, and then you maybe grab some of these other things too, wrap it up and try not to choke. One of the best things, of course, is that there's no tipping, so you don't have to pay for any more than what you actually ate. One of my current obsessions is naengmukbap, which is a cold soup with some vegetables on the inside, where you get rice and you scoop it in, and it's cold but spicy, and it's got the sweet and the rice and everything's together, and it's just so good. My thing this summer has been all the naengs. I never thought I would like cold soup, but Korea has proved me wrong. Most Korean food in Korea is very inexpensive. If you're wanting something more international like Thai or Indian, you will see those prices begin to rise and get a little more expensive. But for the most part, eating out is very cheap here. So this has been 7 things that I love about Korea. Sorry to make the last video so negative. I was just feeling very passionate about a few topics, and I felt like I should share. This one was much more lighthearted, much more fun to make. Please let me know what you thought in the comments. Chuseok is coming up, and I'm trying to decide what to do for the few days off I have for vacation. Do you have any suggestions of what I could do for a day trip? Please follow me on Snapchat and Instagram if you'd like to see a little bit more of what's happening in my life. I'll put those links down in the description box below. Pretty soon I'll be having to make my decision of whether or not I am staying or leaving Korea. I promise I'll make a video about my decision with some good reasons why I decided to do what I did. But for now, I don't even know what I'm going to do yet, so just hold on out for that video for a little while. As always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.